Hi everybody and welcome back to the Every Stitch Counts podcast. Hi, hello, how are you all? Thank you so much for being here. For those of you that don't know me or have never stumbled across one of my videos, my name is Charlotte. On this podcast, I like to talk about all the things that I've been making, what I've finished, and all the knitting that I get myself up to, as well as kind of what I've thought about the process, things I've learned from the process, and I try to share all of that. I try to share the wealth of knowledge with all of you so that you too can enjoy and make beautiful things that you want and like wearing. Today I am wearing my Kylie pullover. It is a summer project that I knit up last year in Sandnesgarn, Lina, and it was by far, I think, one of my favorite makes of 2024, and I wear it a lot. It's a pattern by Irene Lynn, and I highly recommend for you. If you haven't done so already, please like and subscribe to this channel. Give the video a thumbs up, leave a comment. It really helps me out, and I just love interacting with everybody on here. So let me know what you're making, what you've been working on, and I'm so excited that you're all here. We have quite a few things to talk about. It's been a minute since I've been able to film a podcast episode. I'm still trying to work out in my new apartment like where and how filming is gonna happen. I definitely don't have as good of a lighting situation in this apartment as I did the last one. And so finding a space where there is even enough light to film comfortably has been a bit of a challenge. I'm currently sitting on the floor. Hopefully that's like fine with everybody. I have one finished object to share with you all and then quite a few new projects. It'll be exciting because it's all new to you because it's been so long since I've filmed like a traditional podcast episode. As some of you probably know, I haven't been knitting a whole lot. I'm dealing with an elbow injury that's flaring up, and so I'm trying to get that taken care of, and I'm not producing as much or anything as fast as I probably have in the past, but I'm still getting stuff done. I'm still making progress on things, making every stitch count. That's funny. Hopefully this is enjoyable and exciting enough for all of you. We'll start with my first finished object. This is my Orcan vest by Penny Ullman, and it was published in Woolfolk Designs several years ago. I'm not exactly sure when it was published. I knit this up in two different yarns. They are these. One is a Noro yarn, which is this one. It's a single ply, just a wool Noro yarn. And then this is a silk mohair that I bought from Flock Fiber Fest last year. This is from Junie and Sai. It's like a pretty electric, purpley, pinky kind of color. I had been wanting to make this vest for quite a while. I just was really struggling with finding the yarn that was gonna bring the pattern to life. Nothing I was choosing was really making the stitches pop the way that I wanted, and it was just not feeling great. And so when I was at Flock, actually, I had no intention of trying to find yarn to make this. I was walking and I saw the Woolfolk stand, like the booth for them, and they had a sample of this vest just hanging there. And I was reminded by how much I love this vest. And so I decided in that moment that I was going to try to utilize this yarn, hold it with something to get it to be the texture and the weight and just the look that I wanted. I was not really too keen on using this yarn on its own. This is like a sport weight single ply wool yarn. I don't know, it just wasn't doing much for me on its own. I didn't really know what I would do with it holding it single, and I didn't really have enough of it to make like a sweater or a top in the gauge that I would want if I was to use a sport weight yarn in this color. So I knew I wanted to hold it with something. I didn't have a sample of the yarn with me when I was shopping for whatever mohair I would hold with it. And so when I found this, in my mind's eye, I was like, oh yeah, that'll match. That'll match enough, you know. And then I got them next to each other. And I was a bit worried at first because this very much does not really match. But I thought, you know, it might it might look kind of cool. It might kind of have that marled look to it, and I think it really does. And the mohair, I think, really just brightens up the whole fabric, because if this is like up on its own, we hold it next to each other, it's like way darker, and that's a very different top than this one in terms of color. And I think it actually makes the stitches stand out a little bit more because the light catches it in an interesting way. That was the yarn selection. I'd never knit with these yarns before. I didn't really know how they would perform. I knew that holding anything with a mohair is going to help decrease the likelihood that it pills, and the mohair is going to give a lot of strength to any fabric that you add it to. So I thought that it would be a good enough gamble to just see if this would end up being something that I would like. And it is. I really like the fabric that it ended up creating. A little bit about the construction of this. It's knit from the bottom up, and it's knit flat in 2 pieces. You start out doing by a 2x2 rib, and then you start doing the kind of cable motif here, and then you have tuck stitch all along the front, and that's the only variation in stitches that you have. So most of this is knit in tuck stitch and 2x2 rib, and then you have this, it looks like a cable, but it's really just like a, I mean, I guess it is a kind of cable, but it forms this really cool braid effect, which is pretty subtle. I don't know how well you can see that. I know a lot of people don't tend to like knitting things bottom up, much less seaming things. I understand that, and I have definitely had my fair share of struggles with knitting things in that way, but I thought this was a really easy pattern to like tackle that skill with, because you're not having to deal with sleeves. I think seaming sleeves is so annoying, and measuring sleeves in combination with like your yoke depth is a real pain in the you know what. And so doing something flat and seamed in vest form, I think makes it a lot more approachable. So I would definitely recommend that people make this. I think it's a great pattern. It's written really clearly. It's not overdone, like it's not a pattern that has too many instructions. It has just enough information to give you the clarity that you need to make whatever you're making, but to not have too many words, which I really like. I really enjoyed doing the tuck stitch. I had never done that before, and I think it adds like a really nice texture to the whole thing. I also really like the fit. I think this has a really modern fit to it. You could wear it as a top. I've worn it as a top, but you could also layer it over like collared shirts and other tops. All in all, it just is like a really fun pop of color. I initially was a bit concerned that the stitches weren't gonna have enough definition because of the fuzziness of the mohair, but then also this yarn, the single ply Noro, has a good bit of halo to it, especially post-washing. And I think that my final consensus on it is that it's actually kind of nice. It is a bit more subtle in terms of the stitch definition because the color is so crazy. I think if it was all over like super defined stitches like this and a crazy color, it might be a bit too much. I just didn't think I would end up reaching for it as much. But when I look at this, like the first thing I think is, wow, what a pretty color, not, oh, like let me look at those intricate stitches. And so far, like when I've worn this in person, that's kind of been the feedback that I've gotten from people, is that they say, oh wow, what a pretty color. This was just an absolute joy to work on. I love the texture. It's very soft. It is not too itchy, but it also seems to not really be pilling a whole lot, which is a huge win. And it's very, like, it has some nice drape to it. It's not too heavy. Like, it's much drapier than I thought it would be, considering that the yarn is, it's not woolen spun, it's like single spun worsted spun single ply yarn. Yeah, that's what that is. And so it feels pretty light, but it has a nice bit of drape to it. All in all, it just hangs really nicely. I think the color suits me, and I just really like it. I would so recommend this pattern to anybody. I think that it's just a really fun take on like a classic vest that you could really do a lot of different things with, and I could see myself making this again. On to works in progress, things that I'm chugging right along on. I have 4 whips, but technically 2 are the same pattern, so do with that what you will. I'll start with those first because they're the most basic, but these are my 2 Monday sweaters by Petite Knit. I didn't think I would be making 2 of the same like basic crew neck sweaters at the same time, but I just was so struggling with what to do with the yarn that I'm making these 2 patterns in, and that's ultimately why I decided to just keep it super simple, not try to reinvent the wheel, not try to find like the perfect pattern for them. I just was like, you know, these will look really good in a basic crew neck, so that's what I'm gonna make. So these are both Monday sweaters by Petite Knit. They're both knit in the same size, but they're both knit in very different yarn, so they are knitting up to be pretty different from one another. I'll start with this first one. This yarn is yarn that I bought at a festival down in Oregon a couple years ago, and it's actually from a small farm producer up in Lopez Island in Washington State. It's an undyed yarn. I believe it's blue-faced Leicester mixed with something else. It's very soft in terms of like it being a farmed yarn. It has this really pretty deep chocolate brown color that has these little flecks of like silver in it. And so from far away, it looks mostly brown, but in the light, it catches these really pretty like silver flecks. I think this yarn would definitely lean more on the side of DK sport weight, whereas the next yarn I'm going to talk about definitely leans DK worsted weight. So this is a little bit thinner, the other one's a bit thicker. It features a folded collar neckline. It's a raglan sweater. The raglan is really simple. It's just a 3-stitch raglan. And the one interesting thing about it so far that I haven't done on other raglan patterns is she has you start doing your increases for your raglans while you're doing the short rows for the shaping in the neckline, which I thought was interesting. I had never done that before, and I imagine it will make it lay nicely, though. I haven't really tried this on yet since I started working on it. I'm just currently doing the raglan stitches on it. I think this is gonna just wash up to be a really nice, lightweight, like chuck it on with anything type of sweater, which will just be a really great addition to my wardrobe. This yarn was expensive, so the time of before I cast this on, I was really wanting to make something super beautiful, super intricate that I was gonna have forever because the yarn is like such beautiful farmed, like locally produced yarn. And then I just was thinking, I'm like, you know, I'm putting too much pressure on this yarn. I'm putting too much pressure on myself because I'm not using it. I have this beautiful product and I'm just ultimately not using it. And that's when I thought, you know, it's really the most expensive yarn that we should be probably more inclined to make simpler classic things with. Not that you never want to make something that's like more fun or trendy with really beautiful yarn, but if you're unsure, and when I've been unsure in the past, I have just found making it simpler, making the design simpler, or making the sweater that you know you're gonna wear is usually the better option for me because I know I'll wear this. Like, this is gonna be such a classic, easy to style piece that I'll definitely get use out of it. Whereas if I was to even turn this into a cardigan or try to find something with different stitch patterns on it, I probably might not have made it because I might not have worn it as much. And I don't know yet because I haven't worn this, but I just was struggling with what to do with the yarn. It's dark yarn, like the color is dark, so cables aren't gonna show up super well on it. It's also got this speckle situation, which is also gonna inhibit like how well you can see the stitch definition. And that was just leading me to think like, man, like just plain stockinette is going to let this yarn shine the most, and it's really going to just be about the yarn, which is what I think this should be. And that's really also true for the next Monday sweater that I have. I have had this yarn for almost 3 years and I've not done anything with it. I've started maybe 2 or 3 other projects and ended up not liking how it was coming out. Now I'm just doing the most basic thing possible, which is like a all over stockinette crew neck sweater. So this one, it looks crazy because it has all these different needles on it right now because I'm doing short rows. But this is knit in the Jill Draper Kingston yarn in one of her Tweety bases. And these are locally produced in Maryland, I want to say. I bought this at the very first Sheep and Wool Festival that I ever went to. And this yarn is beautiful. This is the same yarn that I knit my cloud sweater in. And I had the same problem with that yarn. I think I have less of an issue with what to do with this one, but it has still sat in my yarn stash for years, and it's beautiful. Like, it has red and blue and this like cherry red and yellow speckles in it, and it's just really pretty. Like, I should be able to find something to make with this, but same thing, like the tweetiness was overpowering for cables. It was gonna look too much. You weren't gonna be able to see the cables well. It is a very interesting spin. I don't know how to describe it. Like, it feels worsted and woolen spun at the same time. Maybe it's just woolen spun, but it's very bouncy and stiff at the same time. Let me know down below if anyone has made something with this yarn. I find it very interesting, and I'm still not sure that I like it, even though I love my cloud sweater. My cloud sweater, I was holding it double with a strand of alpaca from the Landman Kid. And this, I'm just holding it like straight up. There's nothing I'm holding with this. But knit up, like, this is so pretty, right? This feels right to me. Like, I definitely am gonna finish this. And I think I will definitely wear it. I don't really, I think actually the only swatch I did with this yarn was for my cloud sweater, and so I was holding it double. Or no, I did actually do a swatch with just the yarn. And when I washed it up, it didn't change that much. Like, it didn't really get much softer. It didn't like loosen up at all. This will remain like a very structured crew neck, I think, which I think will like. And it's just this really beautiful, like, rich brown color that will go, I think, really well with purple and pink. Just on a side note for anyone who's like interested in color theory. Like, if I do this, oh, what a sleigh that's gonna be. Wow. I don't have too much to say about the pattern itself other than what I said about the other one. I'm just really happy to be finally using this yarn because I've had it for so long, and I tried knitting a cabled yoke sweater with it. It wasn't happening. I tried casting on the perennial sweater. That also wasn't, like, I wasn't feeling that at all. And this just feels right. And so I think that's the moral of the story for me and to anyone else, is that if you have a yarn that you really do like, maybe it's a busier yarn or there's just more, it's more about the yarn. You don't want to pick a pattern where the pattern design is going to be competing with the yarn. So think of it as like complementary colors. If you have an accent wall in your apartment, you don't want to pick other colors necessarily in your space that are going to clash or try to steal the show, like, of your huge accent wall that is a very specific color. Whether or not you really love the color of that wall, your whole space is probably going to feel more cohesive and more like something you like looking at when you play off of that color. I think of how I pair yarn and patterns in the same way. This pattern, very intricate. It is all about the texture. It is all about the cables to me. And so if I was to pick a yarn combination that was super fuzzy, had like sequins and like flecks of stuff in it, it's gonna be competing with the actual design. Whereas something like this, like, it's a very plain design, you can, I think, have more interesting fabrics going on because it's not going to look like too much, because it's going to give a real platform for the yarn to really shine versus competing for like where should my eye look, like what should I be looking at. That's not true for everybody. Some people are gonna like really crazy colors and they're not gonna care about that, and that's what their eye is gonna really like. That's totally fine. This is just what I like, and that's why I ended up choosing this. My next project, I don't even really want to show anybody, honestly. I'm gonna be totally honest, I might rip this out. This is an Icelandic design cardigan, steeked cardigan that I cast on in a bunch of Eastech's Lettlopi yarn that I have laying around. It's this really pretty, like pinky, peachy, beige color. I don't know if I just need to wash this part of it. I don't know. I get that the Lettlopi yarn like blooms a ton, and when I wash this, it's going to look very filled out and airy and flowy and nice, but pattern is like this, it almost looks like a baby doll kind of cut. Like it's very wide and A-line and boxy, and then the sleeves are very wide as well. And I just don't know if I have the right color combination of yarns for that pattern. And I don't really know if I'm feeling the pattern, to be honest. The two colors that I have are these. And the pattern that I originally wanted to make with these two yarns, I haven't been able to find. Like it's posted on Ravelry, but I think I have to buy like a whole book of patterns in order to get access to it, which I did not realize before. And I also just don't know if I'm feeling these colors anymore. Like at the time, I liked them. Wherever I bought these, which I don't even remember, they had a pretty limited selection of colors for the Lettlopi yarns. And now I'm like, meh. Like, this is scratchy even for me. And I get that I'm making a cardigan / jacket that's going to be an outerwear piece, but I just don't know that this is inspiring me anymore. So I might rip this out and put it to the side, honestly. I haven't gotten very far, so I don't feel too bad doing that. But to be honest with you, I don't know that I'm feeling inspired to make anything with Lettlopi. I thought I would really like it, and a lot of people really do like this yarn. I don't think this is the right pattern for me, so I might undo it and just let it sit in my stash for a little bit longer and see if I find like the right pattern that will make me love this yarn. But if not, I honestly will probably give it to a friend or sell it to somebody for like a discounted price, because there are lots of people who will love this. I don't think they're great colors for me anyway. Like they're fine, but I don't think they do much for me. Kind of a bummer with that, but I just don't like it. And I don't like to keep knitting on things that I'm not liking. So if I'm not liking it, I honestly will just rip it out. Start over, reuse the yarn, and find something else that I like with it. Yeah, let me know in the comments what your experience has been like with Lettlopi yarn. I get it's probably going to be super warm, and maybe I just need to find the right yoked sweater, like colorwork sweater, and make like a hiking sweater with this that's super big and oversized, and then find something else to do a steeking project with. Because I could see myself just using this as like a dog walking sweater. I don't think these colors would end up being what I really want to like wear all the time, I guess. We have come to the last project, which is by far the best thing that I'm working on. It is my wings pullover. Do y'all remember this beautiful yarn? I bought yarn from Max the Knitter's company at Flock Fiber last year, and I bought it so that I could make my wings slipover, which is a pattern in Memory Lane. It's by Claudia Quintanilla. She's an epic designer. She's also the woman behind Unit 2. Guys, this pattern is the most beautiful thing I have ever made in my life. Like, I don't know how to get the beads that are in this to show up on camera better, if you can see them. But this is a raglan sweater design. I guess it's more of a blouse. It's a raglan top. This is knit on a US 1.5, so a 2.5 millimeter needle. It's knit in a single strand of mohair. It features this lace motif over the entire thing, and within each one of these little lace eyelet leafy things, there is a little bead. And the beads that I've chosen are Czech glass beads, which are actually pretty subtle to look at. I don't know if you'll be able to see them in there. Do you hear them? ASMR. But they're little glass beads, and when the light shines in them, like you can't really see them actually when you're in like a ill-lit space, but when the sun shines on this, all these little glass beads very, very subtly catch the light, and they have this like beautiful iridescent quality to them, and I just am obsessed. I think it's so beautiful. It's definitely been a labor of love. It's taken me a very long time to get this far. Not as long as I would have thought, but it's just so beautiful. So about the pattern, it's actually very simple. It's a raglan design. Once you get the lace motif down and you're like just doing the lace, it's actually pretty easy because it repeats everywhere and that's all you do. It's the only chart that is on the pattern. And so you're just doing your lace chart with whatever increases or decreases you have to. I'm still working on the yoke for this. I haven't gotten to the point where I split for sleeves. I knit to the appropriate amount of increases, which I believe I was knitting the second size, but it was too short. So I did the increases. One, it just straight up wasn't big enough. And it also was like way up here, which my armpit is down here. So I'm adding more increases and I'm also gonna add some length to the yoke as well. I tried this on a while ago. I was maybe like a ½ inch back when I just took it off the needles. I blocked it so I could get a sense of what the fit is gonna really be. That's when I determined that, okay, I need to knit more of this and add some more increases because it was too tight like everywhere. It was not long enough, like everything about it, it just needed to be bigger. This pattern originally has quite a bit of positive ease in it, so I will probably try to decrease that a little bit. I want this to be baggy and airy and romantic, but I don't think I want as much positive ease as I saw in the original design. So I might just kind of do my own thing for the yoke portion and mess around with that a little bit rather than just going to the exact pattern description, but more on that later. The best part about this is that it's just so different from anything I've ever made. And at the end of it all, it's gonna have these really beautiful kind of straight arm sleeves that are just really romantic and beautiful looking. And then it will also have a Peter Pan collar, like a really big collar that gets attached to the top of this. And I'm just so excited. I don't know where I'm gonna wear this. I will probably just look for excuses to wear it every single day because it will just by far be the most beautiful thing I think I've ever made. I love this. The book is released. Memory Lane is out. So you can also buy that book and you can make this as well. This is one of many just gorgeous designs that she has in that book. I definitely will be purchasing it someday, adding it to my collection of knit pattern books, which I have never actually made a sweater from the books that I have, but they're just collections to me. Like I just like looking at them, I like being inspired by them, and I will make patterns from them eventually. It's just been a very fun process. The yarn is stunning. Like Max's yarn is just great. I love it. This was an investment piece. Like I only needed 3 skeins of silk mohair, but I think it was definitely over $100 in materials. And the beads, I've spent like $70 or $80 on these Czech glass beads, which is crazy, but totally worth it. I can't wait until I can try this on and see how the fit is. Yeah, love that. So pretty. All right, we are at the end of the whips, but I did want to show you one more thing that I've been working on and have been just kind of having a lot of fun with. As some of you know, I have this dang elbow injury, and on my last video, a couple videos ago where I talk about that, I told people, I was like, oh yeah, I've been getting into polymer clay, and boy, have I ever. I've started making stitch markers, and listen, they're so cute. I don't know that you're ready for this. Oh, focus. Look at him. Look at this little guy. So we have a little lemon that looks like a mango. I think I'll just make them oranger next time. And then we also have Mr. Happy here, the little frog. Look at him. And I'm putting them on all of my projects. It's the greatest thing. It's the greatest thing I think I've done so far. Like look at this. Look at this little happy lemon just hanging out on my sweater. It's so cute. I also have him on my wings sweater. I'm just having the best time of my life making these little things. They are just bringing me so much dang joy and happiness, and I can't wait to make more of them and to give them away as gifts and, you know, just to make them all the time. It's actually a really cost-effective thing to make because they're so tiny. Like, I use such a small amount of the polymer clay to actually make the things that now that I have all of the findings and the proper like tools kind of assembled, I can just go crazy with these things. And I think that it's very fitting that the first like kind of knitting notions that I made were progress keepers because every stitch does count. But couldn't you just look at them forever? Okay, enough of that. Definitely will be making more of those in the coming months. That is it. I feel like I was off to a bit of a rough start with filming this video. I just couldn't find my groove, but I'm really happy that I was able just to sit down and get everyone kind of caught up and talk about my knitting. And it's been really hard not being able to make and just do the things that I want to do because of like body pain and old injuries that I'm really trying to deal with. So it's nice to be able to sit down and still see that like, wow, I am still doing things and making stuff, and I have all these little new things to share too, and I'm just very grateful as well and happy that I was able to sit down and kind of find my groove again with this and show everyone what I'm working on. I have been really trying to be more consistent with posting on YouTube, and it's just been so fun and so rewarding. So I have a lot of things planned and will try to keep as consistent as possible, even though I am a 9-to-5 corporate girly. That life chose me. I didn't choose it. As is true for a lot of people. I just am so happy that you were here. I hope that this made you smile. I hope that you enjoyed this video and that you're getting to make all the things that you want to make and do all the things that you want to do, and that you're just finding joy. And I will see you all on the next one. Keep it classy, as always. Bye.